How do commercial construction projects impact future self-storage demand in the area? So similar to the housing starts, if you come down to the right here, we're kind of located just outside of Miami. And if you click on this commercial construction button, you can see that we track over 300,000 commercial construction sites across the country. So if I turn off the self-storage supply, you can see we're tracking industrial, education, retail, medical, etc. And all these construction projects, you can, within the map, click on each one, open up the details on any of these projects, and you can see that this is a conceptual $450 million business lake park expansion, right? So you can obviously manipulate all these projects on the map and identify ones that make sense. And if we're just looking at this in the context of a self-storage facility, right? If we're looking back at this Boulevard Industrial Park facility, right? And we look to analyze this site, you can see all of the commercial activity nearby the site. We have some educational renovations happening. We have a warehouse renovation happening, some more educational things and projects across the board. And you can see all the commercial activity that comes within the area. So how should you think about this, or how can you utilize this data to find areas where a lot of companies are investing in? So if we go back to the key, you can obviously use the map to turn on and off the projects that you think have the highest correlation to self-storage demand. I think the three biggest ones in our view are medical, retail, and education construction projects across the country. So if we keep those on, you'll see that within this 1, 3, and 5 mile radius, you can see there's a ton of medical happening nearby, a good amount of retail. You can see this is a Walmart construction site nearby. All right, so obviously within the map, you can utilize this data to find pockets of growth in the area. And we can get into the actual specifics of this data, right? Because it's super helpful to also contextualize to your investors about how much company investment is happening in this area. One other thing you can do on the map is we also track signal brands. So we track all the Starbuckses, Walmarts, Aldi's, Whole Foodses, etc., right? And one way to think about this is that these brands have all previously invested into this area near your site, and they obviously have indications on the quality of the market, right? If you see a lot of Dollar Generals in a given area, you probably know it's likely to be a lower income area, versus a lot of Whole Foodses that can also indicate, an upper income area, right? So these are all different brands that have had teams of investment professionals that have vetted this area and for whatever reason invested in it, right? So from talking to your own investors, you can leverage the experience of prior investors that came before you for this area to really demonstrate how high in demand and how high growth a given market is. But specifically, if you filter for just the Starbuckses, Walmarts, and then just the retail construction, and I turn off the self-storage supply, right now you can see in this area where you can see here is a Walmart with they're doing some renovations nearby. So Walmart is making an investment within 3 miles of the site. Here's another Walmart over here, and you can see they're expanding or doing some renovations on their super center over here, right? So utilizing this data within 3 miles of the site, Walmart is continuing to invest into 2 locations within a 3 mile radius. That is really interesting information for your investors, right? Because if Walmart's investing in the area, that obviously signifies that they're growing, they're seeing traction, and they think that this area is ripe for continued population growth. There's a bunch more within the 5 mile radius, right? But when you're presenting to investors, being able to point these things out instantaneously is super valuable for your investment. And then, of course, the next level of this is you can download the commercial construction report into Excel. And, really quickly here, So really quickly, once you download the commercial construction report within the 1, 3, and 5 mile radius, you'll see we'll give you the spreadsheet of all the commercial activity happening in the area. So you can look to see the name of the project, similar to the housing projects, right? But we would give you the name or the information on each project so you can firmly vet them during due diligence. But then also with your committee, you can total up all the costs of these projects that you verify during due diligence and say there's $3 billion of investment happening within a 1 mile or a 3 mile radius of this site. You can see we'll give you the stage of each project. This is where you can filter for the kinds of commercial construction projects that you're interested in, whether it's restaurants, retails, medical, infrastructure, etc. And then similar to the housing, we'll give you the estimated start date, the date of last update, and then as well the owner and developer information, so you can contact Joe or Christian or all these other owners and get the full lay of the land and explain why their company was able to invest and got comfortable with this market. And you can utilize the same arguments for your own committee to get more projects approved and obviously demonstrate that there's a lot of demand for this area, not just investors investing in the area, but another thing to consider is that a lot of self-storage customers are businesses. So if there's a lot of commercial construction projects in a given area, there's likely a decent correlation between those companies needing self-storage supply, right? So, you can utilize this data to try to find those brands and those investments and those companies that are likely to use your product, and obviously use it as an additional indicator for self-storage demand.